Well, another episode of Tested VR. I'm Adam Savage in my cave with a show and tell of not just a piece of my collection, but really a whole different category of my collection. If you're familiar with my videos, you're familiar with my cave as a museum to film history, to MacGuffins, to props and costume pieces that I have found inspiring over the years. But my collecting is not limited only to pieces of film history. I'm obsessed with objects in general, and specifically interesting points along technological development. So I like collecting early mechanical computers, and specifically I love vintage sound equipment. Now, before I show you this piece that's underneath the rag here, I want to talk about what it was like to grow up in the late 60s and early 70s like I did. As you probably heard, we had 4 television channels and then a bunch of garbage on the UHF part of the dial. And it was, you didn't get to watch whatever you wanted. You watched whatever was on. Luckily for me as a kid, what was on TV seemed to be an endless number of reruns of Star Trek and Mission Impossible. And Mission Impossible is an amazing show. The original Mission Impossible literally never slowed down to let you catch up. If you didn't watch the opening credits and if you weren't watching from the beginning, they weren't going to help you along. I watched every episode of that show probably 10 times. And if you've ever seen, you're probably familiar with this. Yes, the Craig Model 408 reel-to-reel tape recorder. This was not the only reel-to-reel they used in the opening sequence of Mission Impossible, but it is the most common of the reel-to-reels. It shows up in more episodes than any other. And about 15 years ago, I was surfing the web and I was thinking about Mission Impossible, and I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if I could get one of those reel-to-reels. And I did a search. I found out it was the Craig 408. I found a list on some website of all the different reel-to-reels they used through the course of production. And then I went onto eBay and I spent a few weeks hunting for the Craig 408 of my dreams. And oh boy, did I find it, because I found it in its original packaging. This is like not just a packaging shipping box, it is also like a display box. I mean, here we have the original leather, not leatherette, but leather cover filled with, oh wait, what is this? A telephone pickup. I literally didn't know that was part of the package. Plus extra reels that are in here. I'm loath to pull them out on camera without knowing that I won't damage them. A small microphone and earphone, and this is my favorite, the original Ever-Ready Energizer batteries that came with this package. Dude, like, amazing. This blew my mind when it arrived. But it was not the end of my search. It turned out to be just before I heard this, it turned out to be just the beginning of my search. Because after I obtained the reel-to-reel from Mission Impossible, I started thinking about other pieces of film history and sound equipment that I might find a fruitful obsession. And that's when I remembered one of my all-time favorite films, The Conversation by Francis Coppola. In The Conversation, you see a reel-to-reel that is way smaller than any I had ever seen before. And it took me a little while to figure out which one it was. And then it took me a lot longer to end up purchasing one. But I did. And it is a storied piece of equipment. Yes, this box you can see is labeled Nagra. Nagra is the de facto manual recorder for the film industry forever. When I was in film school in the 80s, this is what you checked out of the NYU film department. Every film set I was on, until recently, like literally in the last 15 years when most people have gone digital, Nagra was still it. This giant recorder about the size of this box mounted to the chest of the Soundo on every set. So Nagra is like a very famous name in film sound. But what is lesser known is that there was a group at Nagra, I think it's some group of Nagra, the Nagra Kudelski group, that made spy recorders for the CIA. And that's what this is. This is my collection of Nagra Kudelski equipment, collected over a period of about a decade, specifically because it's hard to find deals in this realm. And a lot of this stuff is surpassingly expensive. I did most of this purchasing when I was making television money. But I'm going to walk you through some of the pieces of this collection. And we start with literally the most beautiful reel-to-reel I have ever seen. It is like a piece of jewelry, and holding it, it feels like a piece of jewelry. I'm going to crack it open here so you can see it. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. Just for reference, the reels, the metal reels alone go for over $100 on eBay. That kind of lets you know, look at that. It actually operates. Yeah, after I bought this, I got a pretty good deal on it. I took it to a sound engineer and spent about the same amount of money having it fixed. I didn't save any money buying a non-working version. But this was developed by Nagra in conjunction with the CIA. This is literally built to be a spy recorder. And during I think about 15 years that they were regularly iterating this design, they started out with a very simple one. They went to more complex. There's a stereo one. That's the hardest one to find, the SNST. This is a SNS. This is the pre-model to the stereo model. And they made a lot of equipment to support it. And I actually have a few pieces of it here. So I'm actually going to try and get this up and running. But just to show you some of the pieces that support it, there was a speaker. This is a playback unit with a couple of features that I find so beautiful. And so, I won't say pointlessly beautiful because I understand the point of beauty, but it's the kind of, they took pains in certain design decisions with this group of products that stand out to me. First up, foremost, this is a stereo playback unit. It's for the SNST Nagra Kudelski recorder. So it has two mono plugs to it. If I plug either one of these into this, I actually get a single channel. But here's my favorite thing about this cord. This cord parks on the device like this. That's not plugging it in. That's literally just storing it. And these two little tiny capstan things, these two little pulleys, are simply just for holding on to the wire while it's being stored. I don't know about you, but that's the kind of design decision that makes me so happy. It's weird and semi-pointless, but also incredible and beautiful. And we should be designing more things like this. The battery holder is another aspect of this piece that I really love. And you take a look at it in the back, you can see it's just this piece of clear acrylic. You can see all the batteries inside. I don't store this with batteries. Even though I pulled my recorder out of the box and played it, you should know I don't let batteries leak in this stuff. I only load it up with power in order to utilize it. And then the third piece to show you is the balanced microphone input. This was actually way more expensive than the Nagra recorder back when I bought it. And I think I accidentally clicked the buy it now button rather than add to basket. And I literally had to have a conversation with my wife where I was like, a really big charge is going to come through this week. I accidentally bought this mic, but I really want it, so we're going to keep it. This has two different microphones. You could actually unscrew this cardioid and go with a little shotgun. Yeah, you can actually replace this. And it gave you a meter reading on the microphone. We're going to get this all up and running. The last piece of this that I collected was the capstone that holds it all together. And it was like, I just thought to myself, well, first of all, I made this box from scratch. This whole construction is simply to hold on to, display, and exult in the beauty of these pieces of equipment. But of course, if I was going to put a bunch of recording equipment in a box, I should have a pair of headphones. And that was the longer eBay search. I spent a long time looking for these Pioneers SEL40s. I think they might be the most beautiful headphones I've ever seen. They totally feel period correct. They totally look period correct to me. And thus I added this ability to display the headphones in there alongside the recorder. There are also other pieces. There are microphones. Just the interface with the Nagra is itself a nightmare because there are no like stereo mini plugs. It's these. These are the interface. So this plug, which if I was to try and buy this plug as like a raw plug that I could hook up to something, I think it's like maybe $100. Yeah. Everything that connects to this costs ridiculous amounts of money. It's sad, actually, that a hobby like this becomes almost impossible for your average person to indulge in because these pieces of equipment are so lovely, but such is the case. So I am going to attempt to get all this to work. So I'm going to put some batteries in my playback unit, and I am going to connect the microphone to the recorder. I'm going to attempt to get a signal, and then I'm going to rewind. You're going to get to see the rewind of this, which is itself hilarious, and then I'm going to play it back. Testing. 1, 2, 3. One. There we go. We're getting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. There we go. We are actually getting a signal. All right. Now, oh my gosh, now you get to see the rewind. Okay, the rewind is absolutely crazy. Rewind, you pull this out like this, and you actually, let's see here. How does this work? Yep. I push this button, and this little knob comes up. Then there's a little handle that pops up, and you will not believe that this is the rewind function. Oh. There we go. That's the rewind. Yep, it's fully freaking manual. Okay, so I'll go, I'm pretty sure I've passed the original point. Let's lock that back. Now, we're going to play it back. I'm going to pull out the microphone because I think it only records when it senses a microphone. I can't quite remember that. But if I put this in, I think that we will get some actual playback here. Testing. 1, 2, 3. One. There we go. We're getting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. There we go. We're actually getting a signal. Cool. I'm going to talk for another few minutes. 10, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to stop. There we go. I can't gush enough by what a beautiful piece of jewelry this piece of technology is. There is a way in which you can look at some objects and tell that the team that made that object not only loved it, but they are proud of the final product. And moreover, they're allowed to be proud, right? Like they were given ownership. I look at these pieces and I see a team that has total ownership over the thing that they are making, and they're making the best version they freaking can. And it's beautiful to witness. Thank you guys for joining me for this weird deep dive into my collection. I will see you guys next time.